Hey everybody, what is going on? Welcome to Off the Top Rope here on the Off the Mic Sports Network. Thanks so much for joining me here on this video. Thursday is usually a heavy AEW day. Overall, like I said, for the most part, I think AEW did one of its better shows post Double or Nothing, leading into All in Texas. Now 9 days away, on July 12th from Globe Life Field in Arlington. And it was an interesting show for AEW. A lot of good stuff happened on it, a lot of storyline progression. And I was thinking that, the last time they did kind of like a significant type show where they threw a world title match, they had one of their biggest numbers. And, hey, they also threw a the Grand Slam Mexico show from 2 weeks ago. Feels like an afterthought because the ratings came out, and I've got a point here, and it's just I don't understand the narrative that fans keep buying into from Tony Khan, and Tony Khan put something out on social media that really further hammers home how delusional this place is, and how much the fan base is delusional for buying into the fact that this company is in a good spot. They did do some good television, but it's not registering in the grand scheme of things with the ratings. Like they were below 600,000. It's July 2nd. I understand we're heading into a holiday weekend, but this was billed as their 300th episode. They had some good shit on this show. Like, they had Okada and Ibushi in the main event. You had Mercedes Moné with a rare title defense. You had, John Moxley and Hangman. You had you build up Ospreay and Swerve were teaming in a random match against the Beast Mortos, but still you had two stars in it. And yet 584,000 people watch this show. Just literally, if you go back 2 weeks ago, this was at 736 when they were at Arena Mexico. Now they're at 584. Granted, it's 2 days before the 4th of July, and NXT went down too. But I totally thought that, given the meaning and the significance, and I would have liked for AEW to have leaned more into the fact that it was their 300th episode. They barely mentioned it. They focused more on that 289th episode, whatever it was, that passed WCW, which they gotta get over that shit. Who cares? Nobody cares about that shit about WCW. Nobody cares about that. Just your weird fan base. And it's just, this company feels like they're doing so well. And yes, they've made a lot of money, and they got that renewal last year with that extension with Warner Brothers Discovery. But Tony Khan put this statistic up on his social media yesterday, on Wednesday, where he started using the 25 to 54 metric, which everybody knows the 18 to 49 demo is really the demo that you really need to pay attention to, as any television product or any executive would know. And the 18 to 49 is usually like the key demographic that you're focusing on in terms of obviously total viewership. But he's using 25 to 54, which nobody fucking uses. Nobody fucking uses that. So, and every AEW sicko under the sun was dunking on everything. Man, Tony really showed them. And Tony recently said this was the best that AEW has ever been. And, we're in the best position we are. We're going to have the best All In ever. And I'm like, listen, they did a good job of building feuds, but this build has sucked. They just crossed 20,000 tickets for All In Texas. And you just drew, for your 300th episode of this show that has been on the air since 2019, you drew 584,000 people with literally no competition whatsoever. Like, what's your excuse? Like, I mean, maybe I'm missing something, and maybe the Big Bang Theory is much more of a big deal and it didn't get the lead in. I don't know what the case may be, but the fact is, nobody is tuning in to watch this show. And that's your 300th episode. That is a milestone. No matter what you think, that is a big milestone. A show 2 weeks ago, a special event in Arena Mexico, 2 weeks ago, feels like an afterthought. I kept saying, what did I say for anybody what did I say after that rating came in? Good for them. Let's see if they can keep this up. And they've gone down the last 2 weeks, and they're below 600,000 viewers again, and they're still losing to NXT. NXT is probably, from a production side, a better produced show. They're in front of a smaller audience, and they have a lot of developmental talent. They do have supplemented with some veterans. But with AEW's talent roster, and especially considering that they're going into a major show, should be drawing way more than 584,000 people for their 300th episode. Like, there's no excuse for that. And then the fact that that AEW and Tony Khan continue to go in front of the media, and their fan base continues to buy that everything's fine and everything's great. And I saw somebody, one account that I typically don't like, said AEW is kind of ruined professional wrestling. And some fan responded to this guy. This guy's a troll. And so then this AEW fan responds basically with the attendance figure from All In Wembley Stadium back in 2023, which was listed at 80,000 people. And I started thinking to myself, I was like, AEW is probably going to get just a shade over a quarter of what they did. And granted, it's a different venue and it's a different thing. Still, a quarter of the audience that you brought in for your first ever All In 2 years ago, that's going to be at Globe Life next weekend. How is that growth? How is that progress? How does that show that you're in the best shape that you've ever been? This is the best year for AEW. Not a single metric. And then Tony Khan, to flip the narrative, has the audacity to go on social media and basically say, use a different metric to fit his narrative. That's how down bad AEW is right now. Like I said, it was a fine wrestling show, probably one of the best episodes of Dynamite this year. It was really well done. There was not a lot of bad stuff. There was stuff that I questioned. The whole tag team segment, which we'll talk about at some point. This tag team division is a fucking joke. Mercedes winning, okay, but we knew that was going to happen, and it was a good wrestling match. Main event was fine. Kenny Omega comes back. I loved the opening segment with Hangman and Mox leading to their Texas Death Match. As you guys know and you saw on the channel, I am a huge fan of what they did with that tag match between the Young Bucks and Swerve and Ospreay, because it opens up a litany of possibilities. Yet still, nobody is watching. And you continue to say that this is the best year that this company has had. And there is no metric out there whatsoever that is reliable, no matter, even if you want to throw this 25 to 54 metric out at people to try and spin it your way, there is not a single metric out there that tells you that AEW is in a good spot right now. And they will probably deliver a fine pay-per-view next weekend. They will. The card looks unbelievable. The build has sucked. Those gauntlets are going to be great. I have no doubt that the three main matches are going to do well. I think that tag match between Swerve and Ospreay taking on the Young Bucks, honestly, is one of the most interesting matches on the show, because it feeds into what the rest of the show could be. But what's your future plan if you're just going to continue lying to your audience and telling them, hey, everything's fine, everything's great, when you literally, just for your 300th episode, for a show that's been on the air for almost 6 years, you drew one of your lowest numbers ever? And don't give me the 4th of July excuse. Like, this shouldn't be an issue at this point, especially with the roster construction and the level of talent that you have. Your booking has been shit. Despite what the fans try to tell me, your booking has not been good. It doesn't draw in new viewers. It doesn't draw in new audience members. And so my question is, what is the long-term future plan for this company? Because continually in the last several years, this number has continually dwindled down. And AEW just continues to sit back and just be content with everything the way that it is. And it's not working. So, yeah, it's great. 2 weeks ago, you guys were yelling and screaming at me, telling me, hey, we got a great rating. We got a great number for Grand Slam Mexico. What about now? Below 600,000 for a big milestone episode. That's inexcusable. And then Tony Khan, the same day of it, parades out a different metric just to fit his narrative. This is all just posturing to just try and get the sickos because these are the only people that even care anymore. You're talking about growth and you're talking about progress. There has been no growth and no progress. And look, maybe they could do something to kind of net this thing out and make some things interesting at All In. But if they don't, I just don't know what the future really holds for this company. They're going to be around because Tony Khan's going to keep forking in money to this because he's got enough money to burn, more than most of us have in our entire lives. That's just the reality of being the son of a billionaire. So, listen, this was disappointing because, listen, despite what people think, I do root for AEW because I want to see viable promotions. But when I see bullshit, which is what I have seen from this company for like basically, I'd say since like mid 2024, I've really just, really been turned off. Like the CM Punk stuff and then the footage that they aired on television. It's got my sister out of it, who's really been in wrestling, but she's kind of been out of wrestling because, WWE isn't in a really good spot either. They're not at their best. They should be operating at a better, and they're kind of just coasting on the fact that they're making so much money. But at least WWE can fall back on numbers and metrics and money and all this other stuff that is actually viable. They continue selling out shows. They continue drawing good numbers. They have a Netflix deal. They have all this other stuff that they can hang their hat on. What does AEW have to hang their hat on? Max? Really? Which is like what, the third or fourth most important like streaming provider out there? That's your biggest selling point? Come on, really? It's wild to me how so many people will go to bat for this company and not just encourage change. And this number shows you that something is up, okay? Like, I keep saying this, and everybody keeps looking at me saying that I'm some sort of a hater, or I'm some sort of a grifter, I'm a Fed drone. Listen, WWE is not in the greatest spot either, but at least they're drawing, and at least they're creating interest in their product. It may not be perfect, but AEW's got nothing, and they've got a big show coming up in just over a week's time. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.